A closer look at data, the what behind the numbers. Of course, we'll frame our lesson by looking at the objective and product. Today, we'll take a closer look at the data that has been collected and get a deeper understanding of how it should impact our planning in PLC and our instructional delivery in the classroom. For the exit ticket, you'll analyze your data and think, are there any immediate concerns or celebration? How is your planning in PLC and instructional delivery in the classroom impacting student achievement? This is a reminder about the chart for the accountability system. We have Index 1, where it's all about student achievement, Index 2, where it's about student progress, Index 3, where it's about closing performance gaps, and Index 4, that's about post-secondary readiness. We've been having a lot of conversations about Pong, and for you new teachers, I'm sure you're like, what is Pong? Well, let's talk about it. Pong is an acronym. For P is pink, O is orange, N is no color, and green is, or G is green. I put a few cartoon characters here just to help joggle your memory. We got the Pink Panther, Tigger, Kermit, and Ed from The Lion King. And it'll make a lot more sense because it's not in this order, but Pong is a word that you would remember. The pink students perform at the advanced level or within 2 questions. Students with green are more than 5 questions above level 2 satisfactory, but not within 3 questions of advanced. Orange students are within 5 questions of meeting level 2, above or below passing. These are your basically bubble kids. And there are 2 different no color kids. The ones that actually have an N means that they did not meet standard, so they missed it by more than 5 questions. But the students who are blank, they are new to the district or to our campus, and we don't have data on them yet to tell us where they are. So the blank is really just a holding pattern until we have a place to place them. Their color could potentially change. Please notice that the Pong color is only given by the previous school year's star. It's not historical data. Kids might be different colors in different subjects, so just kind of pay attention to that. Okay. This is your teacher progress monitoring document that you find in Edugens. L2 is going to be your cut score. It's Index 1. L3 is going to be advanced. It's Index 3. RG is report card grade. Well, let's scoot over. MG over here, it is met growth. That's Index 2. And EG is exceeded growth, Index 2. You will have Pong colors, pink, green, orange, and no color for all of your sub-pops. They're listed here on the left. This is the detailed view that we talked about in PLC. Remember, each child will get a Pong color, and here's this blank no color that we talked about. But more importantly, you'll also look at the LEP, the SPED, and the eco disadvantaged. If they have a 0, that means that it's not inclusive for that kid. But when you see a 1, then it means that that does count for that student. And so you have to be very careful because not only will they count in their sub-pops, but they'll also count in the LEP, SPED, and eco disadvantage. So they could count more than once. And then here's also your target score. If you have a target score for a child, it will be listed under the T. The DRA listed here will mainly be used in our humanities courses where the humanities teacher gave a DRA reading assessment. Also in this detailed view, you'll have the S. This is where your 9 weeks assessment data goes. And you'll see some are highlighted yellow and some are highlighted blue. And that's for met growth versus exceeded growth. But let's take a step back. F1 is the 3-week assessment. F2 is the 6-week assessment. The S is the 9-week assessment. And then the grade is the grade for the actual grade book. So we need to make sure that we're making connections between the 9-week assessment and the grade. So ask yourself, what's the level of rigor in your classroom? Are your standards aligned? You have to understand to use the 3 C's, which are content, cognitive level, and context, to get the increased rigor that you are looking for, to make sure that your grades in your classroom are positively correlated with the 9-week assessments. Index 1 is about cut score. It's the state's minimum passing rate. 60% across the board per content level, and in this one, all really does mean all. In the past, this is the only data that's been used for accountability purposes. What are your immediate concerns? How much cushion do you have? In this teacher worksheet, and we've gone over it in detail, you've got your cut score, advanced, and then final level. And this stuff was pre-populated for you, but don't neglect looking at your LEP, your SPED, and your ECO disadvantaged, because they're actually calculated by themselves, as well as these students do count over here. Now remember, your numerator is the number met over your denominator, which is the total amount of students tested. With your sub-pops, take a look at LEP. Are there linguistic accommodations necessary? SPED, if this is very low, are you considering? Are IEPs being followed? What are you doing to monitor these kids? Have a plan. The expectation is that all of the pink and green students meet standard. So if you had kids in this area where they didn't meet standard, kind of ask yourself why. Ask them why. Help get down to the bottom of it. Is it psychosocial? How many would I have gotten with all the pink and greens? Is the number significant? Did this change a lot? If so, that means that we missed a lot of kids that we should have grabbed. Know where the kids are and what we're doing with them. So just basically come up with a plan. These are your number of orange and no color students that were 3 away from meeting standard. And then there's a range that lets you know about the students that are close. It's your bubble kids who teeter-totter with meeting the minimum standard. And we've got to find a way and get a plan for them as well. What interventions will you do to monitor these students and ensure their success? And remember, they need lots of TLC, time, love, and commitment from you and from them. This is how we will find our target students. As students are identified, their performance will be monitored all year long. That's why we have Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and S. So once a student gets on this list, they stay on this list. So you'll put the student name, and this time, make sure that you circle Q1 so that you'll know it's for quarter 1. But remember, targeted students need targeted interventions. Index 2. This is new for us. It's measured in reading, writing, and math. A rhetorical question: are you growing kids at least 1 grade level? This is a good way to get credit for the work that you do with kids that you have not previously gotten. And it's basically, if a kid starts off real low but you help grow them, it's a celebration. So we hope to see high numbers in Index 2, because we don't want a kid sitting in your class for a full year and not at least getting the 1 year's worth of growth. Number 8 on your teacher worksheet shows the percentage of students who met and exceeded growth. The met is here. We did the tally marks, and then the exceeded is here. Remember, the exceeded kids count for us twice. That's the most bang for our buck. Our goal is to shoot for that because they help us out. But remember, it's divided by 200 because you have up to 100% here and up to 100% here. That could be meeting and exceeding progress. So this is a celebration of how many kids you got to meet their growth so far. This part of the data shifts the focus to the percentage of students who have not met their target. We've got to dig a little deeper and reflect and ask yourself why. For the reflections question that you'll answer, ask yourself, based on the things that you have here, what are some things you plan to put in place to address the students that have not met? On the back of the sheet, we have the breakdown, and you need to look and see what kind of trends do you see. You know, you have African American, Hispanic, white, Asian, 2 or more in total, but then this is focused on the students that did not meet the target. Here we have a progress measure of the orange and no color students. So we're going to actually list the student's name, what their target score, and then in Q1 you'll do minus however, how many far away were they from hitting their target. And that's a great conversation piece to have with that student. This is where you get the acknowledgement for the work you're doing with kids regardless of where they start. It's a realistic goal that won't expect that you get a kid from kinder to 6th grade all in 1 year's time, but rather help get kids to grow a year plus celebrate success. So Index 2 is very, very important. Index 3, Closing Performance Gaps. In this index, each student is worth at least 200 points. Ask yourself, how many of your students are making the minimum, which is the cut score, L2, and how many are scoring advanced? We can maximize our success by getting as many students to level 3 advanced as possible. Our 3 sub-pops to consider at Truman are African American, Hispanics, and economically disadvantaged. Look across the board. Are there any gaps in learning thus far between those 3 groups? Are there any significant findings? On your teacher worksheet, you'll look at number of students who met level 3 advanced, and you get your percentage, and then the students who are 3 questions away, because we definitely want to encourage them and try to get them over the threshold. They're so close. Index 4 is about college readiness. The minimum is determined by the chart that you've been provided with, and what students are on track for final level 2 right now, because we are in a phase-in period right now. The cut score is lower than the final level 2. A student must meet final level 2 in at least 2 tested areas to count. So if you think about 6th grade, the only 2 tested areas they have are reading and math. In 7th grade, they have reading, writing, and math. So that's 3 opportunities. In the 8th grade, you got reading, math, science, and social studies. But they must meet final level 2 in at least 2 tested areas to count here. So we'll take a look on our worksheet. It's the number of students who met final level 2, and that's they're saying that they're pretty much prepared for college. Here's a place to monitor your RTI students. Who's currently on RTI in your classroom? Are there strategies being used for them, and are they effective? What's next for these kids? On your exit ticket, please answer the following question. Thank you so much for your patience and your time. If you have any questions, I'll walk around to assist you. Have an awesome day.